Hey, what is up everybody, Blades for here, and today for you guys another video of Persona 5X. Inside today's video, guys, I'm gonna be at least showing you guys the 2 units that are absolutely gonna set up your account for just anything that you need to do in the future, and pretty much just setting up your account for success. And this is gonna be revolving Futaba and Cord. So in today's video, I'm really gonna be explaining these 2 characters as well as showcasing what they really do to really help out your team to the maximum efficiency that they could possibly be doing. So if you guys are interested in this type of stuff here, be sure to sit down and relax and enjoy the video. As always, hit the like button and the subscribe button. It really does help out the channel and does help out me a lot here. We've been really getting the ball rolling recently, where a lot of you guys have been really paying attention to the videos and have been asking me questions in the Discord whether this is a good idea to do things, and I'm loving it. Okay, getting the responsive reactions from you guys, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on Discord, has been amazing. Answering all you guys' questions have been amazing. So if you got more questions, ask away. Got a little video recommendations that you want me to go ahead and do to try and answer other questions as well, go ahead and ask away and I'll try to do so. If you want to be involved inside of my community as well, be sure to check down below in the description. Should be a Discord link called Gotcha Metaverse, in which I'll keep you guys informed on anything P5X related, whether it's TW, JP, KR, CN, Global. Hint, that might be happening soon, but we'll see. All right, let's go ahead and get into it. So for the first things that we're going to go over here, I'm going to at least divide these by 2 different setups here. Both of these characters are both universal. Both Cord and Futaba are the main pinnacles in this game, especially when it does come down to the supportive side of things, where we have Futaba being the #1 navigator in the game and then Cord being the #1 supporter in the game. Both of these characters kind of changed how we utilize our DPS teams here and made them absolutely insane. And the funny thing apart, at least with this in mind, you can actually use both of them in the same team or either use them in separate teams. You don't have to have them in the same team, but for your DPS here, this is definitely going to make your team the strongest. So we're going to go ahead and divide these by 2 different parts here, where I'm going to go over at least Cord's whole kit first, and then actually we'll switch it up this time. We're gonna go over Futaba's whole kit first, and then we're gonna go over Cord's whole kit, and I'm gonna show them at least in a DPS team, and you guys can actually check it out for yourself as well. So going ahead and talking about Futaba. Futaba is a navigator, so instead of her taking up a whole spot that's going to be mainly your main team, which consists of at least Wonder, usually a DPSer, a debuffer, and whoever else you want, we are going to have her as the 5th slot. She doesn't go on the field. Everything that she does is not a fighting navigator. I guess some people didn't know that, of course, the navigators don't fight on this, and so they were trying to figure it out. But this is how your team usually consists of. These 3 are your main fielders, with your 4th slot, or at least your 5th slot here, being the navigator. They are always off field. They're technically like an extra ability that will always help you out. And Futaba does an extremely good job at least what she needs to do. This character is an absolutely amazing offensive navigator, and this is really going to help out your DPSs to the best that they can possibly be. So to just go ahead and get started on what she's really revolving from, he brought in a lot of new aspects inside of the game, which really makes her very, very strong. Navigators already share a little bit of their stats, and she shares 20% of her Navi stats as usual. This is something that all navigators do have, so don't worry, it's nothing new with that. But where things get a little bit newer is going down to her passives. So if we go ahead and take a look at her passive here, we have these 2 being Playfulness and Funeral Arrangements. The actual one for Playfulness, this is the still same one, but this one right here is actually called Cleanup, in which while doing both of these, they're going to help out her entire kit. Cleanup is the one that I want you guys really to pay attention to, though, because whenever you do a hack completion, which is going to be something that you'll pay attention to in the future as well, your allies will actually receive some of a shield here, or at least 30% of her own attack as a shield, and this shield can last a little bit for 3 turns. Now this actually makes her more of a defensive type deal here, but you're really not going to be paying attention to this too much. It is nice when it does happen, but you don't really have to pay attention to this. It's really going to come down to your skill 1 and your skill 3 that you pay attention to the most, at least there. So do keep in mind skill 2 is used every now and again as well. But going over at least the first skill being Silent Hacking. Silent Hacking is probably one of her best skills besides the skill 3 no matter what, and that's mainly because with the first little skill here, we have the decrease of all enemies' defenses. Now this can actually scale up on the max of her own attack points here, and you need to hit this cap, because by hitting this said cap, it's gonna further elevate her elite defense that she's gonna be decreasing, utterly making it crazy. Now we do have the cap right here that you guys can see here being 4.6, well technically 4.7 attack points here, in which you will get the most out of your defense out of this, for at least decreasing the enemy to really make sure they take down all of that good old damage. Now this is going to be a huge deal for a lot of you guys, and that's really what you guys are going to want to pay attention to, seeing it ties directly into her skill 3. Much like all the other navies, of course, they do have action timers. This one has a 4 action speed, while the other one does have an 8 action speed, and this is the really good one here. Now, I did say in the future, or at least in the past, that this character definitely lives up to his name being the best navigator. You not only have a dangerous amount of defense decrease here, but you also have a cool little mechanic that is the only character who has this mechanic here, which goes into the hacking completion type deal here. Well, in the name of the Featherman, it gives you a major attack buff to at least a single ally of your choice here, and this is only a single buff. Now, if you did have, of course, dupes on this, I think it was an A6 that has this, it turns this into an AoE skill that goes for everyone, but for the most part, this is going to be for a singular person. But this actually does one other thing that no other character has. Like, there's no substitutions for this, there's nothing else. This is what makes her the queen of just being the most valuable character that you can get other than Cord here. That is called the disruption virus. Now, the disruption virus, if you guys don't know exactly what that does here, what this allows you to do is any mob, let's say you of course have the attribute scale here. Certain mobs are going to be nulled, certain mobs are going to have like resistances, they're going to be normal to certain attacks, they're going to be weak to certain attacks. Well, what Futaba does is, let's say you have a weak on win, you have a null on what is it called, a null on nuke, resistance on freaking curse, right? Well, she does weakness implant, so for the weak that she has, she takes that down as long as the person I buffed was a winded weak person, like a winded person, right? Remember, the mob has weak on wind. Well, I buffed a winded person, that takes that wind down even further, making it a super weak. Or let's say I buffed the person who was a nuke DPS, right? Well, they did have a null on nuke. Well, that goes down to resistance. So now you can actually deal some damage to them. Oh, well, they are normal to curse. I buffed the cursed person. That now goes down to weak. She's able to at least apply one of these weaknesses all the time whenever you use this skill, but you do have to at least cur it to whoever you're buffing. This is going to be a huge deal because you can really get off some crazy damage with this. And if there is already a weakness, and which is why I call it super weak, if there already is a weakness and you just took that down once again, it actually does 25% extra damage taken with that weakness, which is incredibly busted, really broken, and is really a nice skill to use. This character, without a doubt, just going over at least the skills, is already a broken character, but it only applies more so for at least your DPS factors when you actually factor in what else you're going to have for her. And that's going to be her, not only her sets, but also her weapon. So one of the weapons that you guys are going to go ahead and get, first to say, the 4-star weapon isn't bad, but I'll be honest, for this character, you do want to have the 5-star weapon, and it's going to show out pretty well. 5-star weapon is called Professional Hack Model 5-star here, and what this one pretty much does, it gives you an attack percentage boost of 30%, which is already nice because seeing that she is an offensive Navi, she does need offensive capabilities to give out those huge buffs. But whenever you do, of course, exploit a weakness or deal damage with the weakness here, this will actually increase her attack furthermore, or increase the character's attack furthermore by 10%, lasting 2 whole turns, which is already busted itself. But after she does at least debuff a person with this weapon on here, the enemy will then take 7.6% more crit damage for 3 whole turns, and this can stack. So if you go ahead and think about this here, that's going to be around like 15% more crit damage for 3 whole turns that an enemy can take off of this stack, which is incredibly broken, especially with the 5-star weapon. Now, the 4-star weapon, as I did say, isn't bad. You do get a 12% buff, Of course, if you do use the disruption virus, the enemies will take more damage by 10% for 2 whole turns, which is pretty nice. But compared to the 5-star, you definitely want to get your hands on this. It's really broken. But this all can tie into at least her card set, which you're going to be utilizing. Now, for me specifically, I have her on at least this set here, which is going to have at least determination being the main card. This is going to be very useful, especially if you're mainly going to be going for applying defense downs, which is going to be helping out with the defense debuffs or inflicting debuffs in general. But you can very well use sincerity as well. I would highly recommend you guys to go ahead and use determination, because there's going to be mainly just general stuff that you're gonna have to do, while sincerity is more specified for mono elements. So probably if you're using like velvet trials, the mono velvet trials, that will be where you use that for. Other than that, you really don't need to. The good part about her, as I did say, she is the best for a reason. She works universally with any DPS in the game, and I mean any DPS. The only one that she possibly can't work with, and even now we're slowly getting the point where she can work with him, seeing of course there is Mont on the team now as well, and that's Yusuke. If you don't use Mont inside of Yusuke's team, then you probably won't utilize her, at least in that team as well. But if you do, you can very well use her inside of Yusuke/Mont's team, in which can be very helpful. But she works legitimately with any DPS. Any DPS you see inside of at least the box here, where it's Skull, Florette, we got at least Joker, we have Ren, all of these characters she does work with. She's universally the best Navi for these characters. Absolutely amazing, crazy insane navigator here that really enjoys to make our lives easier by exploiting those weakness implants that she puts on the enemy. Absolutely amazing though. Nothing much I have to go into at least saying about. One of the main things that I would advise you guys, if you are summoning for this character to make her even more of an absolute menace, is going for the A1. The A1 itself makes it so then you can try to ease off some of your some of your building for your DPSs here, and mainly focus those extra stats into something that does needed. With her A1, she's actually able to give all allies crit rate by 12% once you have a hack completion status or analysis progress 100% status as well. So it's really helpful. Definitely makes it so you can strain less on your DPS, or at least try to put some of those stats in a different way. Now, this took a while for me to explain for this one, but I think this is really going to help you guys really understand this character's worth it. And we're just going to go ahead and look at Cord next. Now, Cord, she is another character that absolutely changed the game for P5X itself. This character came right after Makoto in terms of banners here, and no one really expected her to be as good as she really was. We did have a lot of people saying she possibly could be really good, but once she came out and we all got to use her, we knew how much of a freaking revolutionary unit she really became. Cord is the only supporter and the only character in the entire game that can actually boost your highlights. Highlights are pretty much the equivalent of ultimates in this game, and you have to build up the highlight bar that gets to 100% to use any 4 of your ultimates. You guys will see it later on. Well, this character itself not only does that, but she helps out with at least buffing attack. She helps out with buffing your highlight damage. She helps out with giving you extra damage bonus. She gives you anything you need, and she can force you to be able to use a highlight early. This is immediately a thing that she can do, not by using her highlight. No. She can do this by using her skill 3. Now, her skill 3 absolutely is insane. Pretty much what she does, as it says here, she selects an enemy, or at least selects an ally, immediately is able to utilize their highlight. When she does this as well, it increases that highlight damage by a certain percentage amount here. Don't follow exactly this percent, because this is off me having 6/6 or having A6. So do kind of keep that in mind, that 90% is definitely a little bit lower if you are A0 or A1, but it's definitely not bad at all. So really good character, really good skill, and this is going to be the main shining light. But with the skill 2 here, it does help out with your attack, and what she pretty much does with this, and we're going to focus on it a lot, is she takes one of your allies and she gives them a certain buff. This buff is called Loyal Listener, which increases your attack by a large amount of at least percentage here, going up to 24%, with a maximum of her at least her attack. The way that you build her here the more attack you have, it does kind of contribute to that as well. Mine has 1,136 here, being that it can go up to normally I think it goes to 976 if I'm correct, but I may be wrong about that as well. Just make sure, kind of look at this, but this character without a doubt helps you in that buffing mechanic. Then of course with her ultimate, her ult, as I did say, gives us a major bonus into damage bonus. Now mine gives me 52.9% for highlight damage bonus here, but the normal amount is 45.5% damage bonus, which is absolutely amazing, while also getting the 10% that we can recover highlight energy from. Absolutely nice, absolutely amazing, definitely worth it. And I gotta say, without a doubt, is definitely one of the things that you guys want to kind of invest into. We haven't even gotten into her passives, and these two things alone have already made it, or at least these three things alone have already made her worth it. But we have, of course, the first passive being stress. First passive being stress here, this one actually does increase the damage of the highlight whenever they do unleash the highlight itself here. It increases that damage by 24% of their attack here for one whole turn, making the effect of loyal listener even stronger, which is really good as well. This helps you out within the damage department, so you don't have to really focus too hard on that. The next one, called sweet picking here, pretty much whenever we do unleash a highlight, she's actually able to heal one of your teammates with the lowest HP percentage. So she's not only buffing the highlights, buffing you, buffing out anything with damage bonus, making sure you can use your highlight quicker. She's also able to heal you based on the lowest HP in the team. I don't know what else I can say about this character. She has it all in her kit, and she is absolutely insane for doing so. Without a doubt, this character is already good enough here, but where the magic really does come in hand is definitely with this weapon. Now, I maxed out the weapon, I maxed out her, and it's really necessary for me just because I like to try and get into the highest things when it comes down to ranking. But for a normal person, you really just need her A0 and get her weapon once. That's it. If you want, A1 is actually really much so worth it, but you don't have to get it, seeing that A0, R0, she actually works perfectly fine. So go ahead and check out the weapon. Don't pay attention to those percentages because those are mainly the R6 percentages here. So I'm going to tell you guys exactly how the just regular R0 percentages are. So with this weapon, which I highly do recommend you guys get, she doesn't, I guess you can go with the 4-star, but the 5-star really brings it home big time. She increases your attack by 30% being there, and then at the start of the battle you gain 40% of your highlight energy. If I did have this, of course, maxed out, or if seeing I have it maxed out, instead of being the 30%, I get 57% extra attack, and then of course my highlight energy at the beginning of the round is 76%, pretty much meaning I can get my highlight immediately, pretty easily at that as well. But alongside with this, just by having the weapon, the attack of an ally with loyal listener is then increased by 15%. If you have it maxed out, 28.5%, and every time we unleash a highlight with our ally, the attack of the ally with the loyal listener does increase by 5%. If you have it maxed out, going to a 9.4% max in general, right? Well, it gets better. It has 3 stacks. It has 3 stacks. So all of those percentages that you heard, go ahead and just times that by 2 or 3. It gets up there and it gets really busted. These are not bound by turns. This isn't bound by turn. This does not expire. This is a permanent effect. Once you hit the 3 stacks, that stays. So this is automatically going to be worth it. Now the 4-star weapon, of course, is pretty darn nice. You get the 12% attack increase. Most people are going to try to max it out, which gives you a 24% attack increase. And then of course, whenever she uses her skill 3, it increases Cord's attack by 28%, going to 52% for 2 whole turns. But you can see the absolute difference. You're missing out on the highlight energy. You're missing out on the extra attack percentage that you would have. You're missing out on a lot of that stuff, which you only get from the 5-star weapon, which makes it absolutely insane. This character itself also is more of a supportive type character. The good part about her is you just need to build her with a ton of attack and she works like a freaking charm. As for her substats, give her some speed, give her some HP, give her some SP regen if you need so, mainly just attack, HP, and speed, and you're golden. Heck, you technically don't even need that much of speed like that. Just make her pretty darn fast to be pretty much second, and you got it. Everything else is pretty much wraps at that point. So This character works like a freaking charm. Make sure you have her attack around 4070 to make sure you hit the skill 2 buff cap. That's going to make your life a lot easier, especially seeing it's going to help you out with at least more of that damage capability there. But all in all, this character is meant to be more of that buffer type feel, so surely do keep that in mind. But now that we went over this here, let's go ahead and show both of these characters inside of a battle per se, so you guys can actually see what I'm talking about. So with the Elise fight that I'm going to be doing, we're just going to go ahead and do something basic. We don't have to do anything that will kind of spoil out anything there. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is let's go here. And this is one of the main teams that I utilize. Once again, her teams are universal. She can go with any DPS. The same can go with Futaba. Both of these characters go with any DPS. But I'm going to go ahead and use this team to really show off what she can do. Now, first things first, I think my thing's on auto, so you guys will immediately see. But I spawn immediately with my highlight. That's what her weapon does. It lets you get up your highlight, and probably not as fast, but of course I have it max duped, but it builds up this highlight meter at the bottom right of your screen here. And what all this does here is when you have that built up to 100%, you get to use an ultimate. But one of the other few things that we're going to go ahead and look at here, if I can just go ahead and use these moves here immediately, and I don't really gotta use too much here to show it off, but me being max duped here, I get this move right here immediately first turn. Normally, if you don't have max dupes or you don't have A1, you have to use the skill 2 first, or at least use something else before popping off the skill 3. So how your things would normally be is you use your skill 2 if you're A0, if you're A1, you can go ahead and use skill 1, in which that stalls a turn, and then you go ahead and attack with whoever you want. So I'm just gonna go ahead and give a good attack. We have our attack buff as well as our regular damage buff that she gave us with that skill 2. And then with the next turn, we're actually able to go ahead and utilize Futaba. Now, as I did say before, based on the amount of attack on Futaba, she can use her skill 1 here, and this skill 1 brings down their defense dramatically. So once we go ahead and use this, we get the defense down, and then we can go ahead and check their stats here. We can see the things that she ended up offering. So for 2 whole turns, they have a 30.7% defense down, and then for 2 whole turns, they have at least decreased defense when taking damage from a weakness. Alongside of 2 whole turns, they have another 10% defense down as well, which is insane. So let's go ahead and do this here, skip all these turns immediately. And the next thing that we can go ahead and look at is the skill 3. So if you're A0 or A1, the second turn is where you get your skill 3 here. And what this immediately does, go ahead and look, we don't have our highlight marker up. Well, that's no problem. Use the skill 3. I want to use it on my DPS. What this does immediately is allow me to use a highlight with any of my characters. What I usually do is always, of course, whoever I'm going to be wanting to use my highlight with is the one I buff with it, because they get that buff. So then immediately I can pop off the ultimate again, and this does not affect your highlight bar whatsoever. Nothing that she does affects your highlight bar. So even though we just used our highlight just then, when we do get it built back up, we're able to use it again, which is crazy. If you guys, of course, know Marvel Rivals, I could just go ahead and slap that in there. But that itself immediately helps. But let's see. They are weak to... We have a couple that they're weak to, which is going to be the gun one. And then, of course, we have this one here. Well, I think they do have a resistance to at least bless. Let's change that around here. So if we go ahead and use the skill 3, not only do we get a major buff for our DPS character here, but it does that little move which increases the crit damage that we can do to them, and it makes their adaptation changed. So that resistance to bless is now not resistant, it's just normal. They now take normal damage to bless effects, even though they're a blessed mob. This itself is already amazing, so now they can actually take some good damage. Well, lucky for us, we do have our highlight meter up, thankfully, since we had that build up and we didn't have to use our highlight, thankfully, to for using our skill 3. Our highlight meter is back. So let's go ahead and use Chord's highlight here, in which what this does, it gives a all team effect of damage bonus. Once again, we get to see this in fights, in which if we go ahead and click our character here, this damage bonus that we got, already we're getting the bonus from at least our what's it called, our buff that we did earlier. But we have my Mr. Right here, which is the 15% damage bonus from that ultimate, as well as the 15% crit damage that we have as well. This is already helping us out. And then since we use our what's it called, our ability with Futaba, we have hacking complete, which is also boosting our damage here. So when it comes down to it, I'm just gonna go ahead and buff up our use our closer one more time here, in which we don't really have to do too much with this one. It's pretty easy to see what's going to end up happening here. But remember, they now take normalized damage to us. We don't have to do much. They're no longer resistance. So at this moment in time, I can just go ahead and use a full on attack when it does come down to it, in which I think my character is a little bit too fast. I keep forgetting she's at the front. So maybe, yeah, now they're resistant again. So unfortunately, I couldn't really show it off, but it would pretty much just make their damage do crazy numbers right there. So easy as that, easy as pie. You guys get the memo for it. And that was kind of a small rundown of both of those characters. Hopefully this video wasn't too long for a lot of you guys' taste here. I really wanted to get the fact out that, hey, these characters are very valuable. Do not miss them. Do not miss their weapons. And yeah, hopefully I'll take that to heart. But I look forward to seeing a lot of you guys' pools. If you guys want to go ahead and interact with me, or just mainly have a hangout place for P5X, be sure to go into the description and join the Discord server. Gosh, it's already an early morning, but hope y'all enjoyed it and have a wonderful day. Peace out.